at me. Okay, let's go here to Chris. Let's end the charade. Caitlin Clark is not only the rookie of the year, she's probably the third best player in the league, and she's halfway through her rookie season. Nothing against Reese, but Clark is doing things no one has ever done. Her skill level is once in a lifetime. Double-doubles based on rebounding, your countless misses do not compare with behind-the-back assists and logo threes. Let's be real. 19 assists last night? Are you kidding me?
Triple-double. I mean, she's been unbelievable. And when you consider where her game was when she first came on board, it's absolutely stunning what she has accomplished. So very impressive. She's gotten better. You know, Indiana at one point was 3-10 and just looked like bad basketball team with one player. Now they've become a very, very good basketball team. And she's so unselfish and she's so mature to handle all the stuff that the media asks her, because they all respond to what somebody else did to her. This is a special basketball player.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, she deserves tremendous amount of credit for all the attention. I was reading in your best 15 this morning that the WNBA's got a big new contract.
$2 billion. They just signed an 11-year extension. They weren't making 50 cents off their TV contract. Now there's sellouts in every arena. And it's not just because of her, because there was a tremendous rush of NCAA college stars that showed up at the WNBA simultaneously. And, you know, give Angel Reese credit. Separate all the junk that comes out of her mouth. Don't pay any attention to what she wears walking down the tunnel, because it's all about her attention. She's a really good basketball player, and there's a whole bunch of them there. So they're selling out, and now they've got a $2.2 billion TV contract, because I think before they were getting 59 cents a year. This is really special.
Angel Reese, I think, is a great player, and I think she's got her own unique persona that's different. Caitlin Clark. It doesn't need to be like the good guy and the villain, because I know Reese likes to say she enjoys playing the villain, but they're just two different players, and they're going to be linked like Bird and Magic, and I think it's terrific.
Yeah. WNBA. Next question.
Okay, here. Let's go to Tim. Lee, if the Padres don't make the postseason, Preller needs to go. Further, would it be time to move Manny Machado? He clearly is on the decline and is not a true leader in the clubhouse.
Well, Manny's been dinged. Manny's had a good middle part of the season. You know, it's taken time to come back from the elbow. Then he had the hip issue. You could move him at 30 mil, but then you'd have a massive hole in your batting order. The Preller situation, the only word I'll use is what ownership said after the passing of Peter Seidler. We're all accountable. And I read between the lines, and that meant if you don't make the playoffs, we're going to have to review the guy that has built this franchise who didn't make the playoffs. That's A.J. Preller. But let's just see. Preller, you know, it's funny. I watched the All-Star game. How many ex-freaking Padres are in the All-Star game?
There were 10.
He was trading away.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. You go through the box scores, there's ex-Padres everywhere. A bunch of them having good success. There's no doubt that A.J. is a wheeler dealer. At this point in time, I'm not going to fire him. But if they don't make the playoffs, this is going to be hard. They're going to have to make a deal to make the playoffs. They don't make the playoffs, then there will be an evaluation of, is his methodology correct?
Well, given all the frustration we have as a Padre fans, isn't it amazing that fans just keep showing up to Petco, paying the money? And I think as long as that happens, I think AJ is putting a competitive product on the field that the fans want to see. It's on the players to perform. And then the other comment here about Manny, to me, I think Manny is a leader. He just has his own way of doing it. It's clear that the other players look up to him. But he just has that bad rap that he's been carrying around for the last decade.
And at times he still appears offbeat. Mm-hmm. You know, people, I mean, I've had people email me and make comments on my social media that he grounds out, doesn't run hard, and he's blowing a bubble while he's running down first base. You don't see that very often from very many other players, but I think the game comes easy for him. I think he's a really complete ball player. But he is getting to the north side of 30. So what's long-term? I wouldn't trade him, because if you trade him now, you're creating another monster problem for your team in terms of how do you replace all that?
Well, then who would want to trade for him? With that contract, the Padres have to probably kick in money. So I say you stick with him. Let's make him a Padre for life and, get him in the Padre Hall of Fame.
How about the accountability question with AJ?
Well, there has to be accountability there. But again, if the fans are showing up, I'm going to have a little bit of slack on that leash for AJ. But when you get guys that just don't perform, you can't really, like when Soto has a down year, you traded for Juan Soto Preller pulled off a good trade. At the time, we all supported it. He gave up a ton, but we liked it. And then Soto didn't perform, and now AJ's the bad guy. I give him a little bit of slack there. But to your other point about all the all-stars, there were 10 of them. And some of them we dealt when they were really young, like Class A, who's a closer for the Indians, the Guardians. And
CJ Abrams.
Well, and yeah, I mean, he made it. But there's other guys that made it that were Padres, like Kirby Yates, that we figured he was done. You know, when he left the Padres, he had arm trouble. He had been bouncing around. The fact that he made it, that's a good story.
Yeah, it is. Okay, next question, Fans Forum.
Next question, Fans Forum. Let's go to SK. The most knowledgeable person in sports journalism. Lee has forgotten more than anyone will probably ever know, a live version of a sports encyclopedia.
Well, thank you. I enjoy compiling information. I have lots of diverse interests. I think I don't know if John agrees with me. I think one of the reasons why what I did initially at 690, what I followed up doing at 1090, it was successful because I appealed. John's heard me make this statement. I appealed to everybody who was on the waterfront. You know, sports talk radio today, all they want to talk about is the Padres. Well, you can't live off that 5 days a week. I was doing 4-hour shows a night, you know, but what I did was, I hit the hot button stories with the Padres and the Chargers while they were here, and then the Aztecs. And then I hit the hot button stories and other big stories around the NFL, what's going on in college football, Major League Baseball. And then obviously I reached out and we did NBA related stuff. And I came from a hockey background. And then I expanded and I did Formula One and NASCAR and Indy. And I loved it. I grew up, I learned about the World Cup in soccer and the PGA Tour and all that. So I kind of hit everybody's hot button along the way. You don't have to agree with anything I say, but I'm giving you data and I'm asking you to get off your ass and get on the phone. Well, same thing here on the podcast. I want you to join me in Fans Forum. So my unique interests, I think, generated a big following because I hit everybody's hot button. Not everybody's a Padre fan. Not everybody's a baseball fan. And if I can service the hockey fan and the Formula One fan, and only one I didn't cover. I don't cover World Wrestling Federation. That's bad theater. I don't do bad theater.
Hulk Hogan's going to be at the Republican convention.
Yeah, that's let's just see how many other people we can put on to talk about the former president.
Yeah.
But so thank you for the compliment. Yes, I am bleeping brilliant because I'm really interested in all this stuff. You read my website, look at the diverse amount of data. Even this guy who left me for 2 weeks to go on a freaking vacation to Ireland, and he could not get any information. He did pay me a compliment. He went to my website every day to get Hacksaw's headlines because he couldn't get it while I was over there drinking Guinness Ale at the top of the brewery in Dublin, Ireland. So what we offer is unique and different, and I think pretty damn good.
Again, I was blown away when I first encountered you on the radio. Like, holy crap, who is this guy? Because you not only had all the data, but you had the hot takes, you had the shtick, and it was just so entertaining and it was so mind-blowing when I first tuned in the late 80s, early 90s. But I got to say, just doing this podcast with you, it's not like you just stay at home and watch TV and then just roll in with your information. I mean, you're a hardworking guy. You're doing your research, you're writing your articles, you're going to press conferences. You're the hardest working man in sports journalism. And it's incredible that you're still going strong.
I may wake up one morning and I'll say, John, it's your turn to do it all because I've decided not to do it any further. But I like it. I just, everywhere I go, I get stopped everywhere to talk sports. You know, John knows that I've had back problems. I go to a fitness center every morning, 6:30, 7 a.m. If they were open at 2 a.m., I would have gone this morning. But people stop and talk. They want to talk sports. And it's just, I like hearing what other people have to say. And they ask me, what do you think about this or versus that? And I tell them what I think, or I correct them in terms of their assumptions. And it's cool. And that's who I am. Sorry, that's my DNA.
Well, you go around saying, I want to talk sports with you.
No, people yell at me that.
Yeah. And so they want to talk sports with you. And I think that's great. And you love the attention when you're out there. I mean, you know, you're a celebrity here in San Diego, and I think it's great that the fans love you.
Does that include the guy that came up to me at a Mexican restaurant while I was having dinner with my wife and said, you dumbass, why would you say that stuff about the Raiders? Okay, let's move on. Fans Forum continues.
Okay, here, let's go to Gary. umps call balls and strikes this year have been horrible. Sounded like Bill Walton. I've been saying this for years. The players deserve for it to be right. It should not have to deal with that and fight and argue. Actually might miss that, but I vote for Robo Ump.
Well, I'm going to have to be sold. Technology is great till it doesn't work. But I'm going to have to be sold that we're not taking too much away from the game if we take the umpire out of the balls and strikes decision. I like the idea of the instant replay challenge on balls and strikes. I'd like to see him give every manager 3 challenges or maybe 5, although you don't want the game stopped, then stopped, then stopped for a quote review. But boy, to me, that's awful radical. But then again, back in the day when they decided to go the designated hitter initially, I thought, oh, that's not right. The only thing that bothered me was the 2 leagues did not operate by the same set of rules until more recently when they finally adopted the DH in the National League. And they've got to work through the union. Union has to sign off on this, and they have to work through the Umpires Association too, because the umpires are going to lose some of their clout in the course of the game. But I'm sorry, the strike zone, the moving home plate, it just drives me crazy. And whether that's wide strike zones, tight strike zones, then we get into the conversation about how high is the strike zone versus how low is the strike zone. So this is not solvable real easily.
Well, like when I was a kid, it was from the letters to the knees. But you look at that box and it's from the belt to just below the knees. So it's changed. But remember back in the day, the AL umpires called a different type of strike zone than the NL. Do you remember how that broke down?
No, I don't remember the specifics of it. But then they changed the relationship, and all umpires worked all games. Maybe this was about 5 years ago. They did away with the American League and the National League guys. They homogenized it all, and everybody was supposed to call the same strike zone, and now it's all over the road. And I don't know whether the ratio is the umps are worse or whether the ratio is these guys are throwing such wicked stuff that moves so fast, and you got catchers who are moving and trying to frame, and whether the umps are getting a good look at it or whether the umps are victimized because that guy out there is throwing 101 miles an hour with jump.
Yeah, and these are like older gentlemen, and they're wearing a mask with bars in front of their eyeballs.
And a catcher moving in front of them.
Yeah, so get the technology in there right away. The other kind of side comment on this is I remember when Ha-Sung Kim came to America, he said the strike zone was different here than in Korea, because I think in Korea it was narrower and taller. So it's just the little nuances like this. It shouldn't be subjective. Balls and strikes should be objective.
All right. Gentleman says computers. He's probably got stock in Apple. That's why he's saying that. Go ahead. Next question. Fans Forum.
Fans Forum. Let's go to Angel. During the late 90s, early 2000s, the Yankees collected players like baseball cards, and no one said anything. Dodgers signed one player for 10 years, and everyone cried foul.
Yeah, well, they signed him for more than 10 years, but the payment process goes out for a long period of time, talking about Showtime going to Dodger Stadium. I think my question was, why does everybody hate the Yankees? I think it's probably a spin-off of how great the Yankees were way back in the day in the Mantle Maris era, and how great they became, Steinbrenner, Reggie Jackson, all that era. And now they're in New York, and I guess it's fait accompli that everybody hates the Big Apple, so therefore we'll boo whatever the Yankees are right now. The Yankees right now are really beat up and struggling as a franchise. It's interesting why they hate the Yankees more than they probably hate other teams. Or maybe I got it wrong. Maybe there's hatred everywhere.
Well, people always hate the big dog, and like, there are some people that hate on Amazon. 10 years ago, they hated on Walmart.
A pile of people dislike me, and if we search long enough, we'll find a few who don't like you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. and so, but the Yankees are the top of the heap. They're the media darlings. So yeah, they get a lot of attention. Okay, let's go to the next comment here. This is from Richard. Can we please go back to the All-Star game having the players wear their own team uniforms? The jerseys are god awful. It's a money grab. It's tradition. Can't always be about the money.
That's what Bryce Harper said. Quit trying to create more uniforms for the fans to have to buy. They like our uniforms, our logos, the color scheme. I think this change is going to occur. I think we're going back. I'm sorry, you just don't look good in the American League All-Star jersey. Why the hell you'd spend any money to buy an American League All-Star jersey? What's wrong with you?
That was like pajamas or something. It was just crazy. But remember when the All-Star game was in San Diego and they made brown and gold practice jerseys, I think for batting practice. And those are pretty cool. And I have one still and with Buster Posey's name on the back, but it's in brown and gold. So it's like the perfect jersey for me to wear when I go see my two favorite teams.
I just want to see the Oriole colors versus the Philly colors.
There you go.
Back in the day, the NBA used to have the players wear their home or road jerseys. And I went to an NBA All-Star game and I sat in press row and they line them up at center court. And what a cool picture that is to see the Phoenix Suns orange jersey, to see the Celtics green jersey. Let's just bring it back.
Well, yeah, especially for the casual fan, because you don't really know some of these stars and you don't know what team they're from. So to see the jersey is great. And like as a kid, man, I just love that because it was like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley mashup, where these players would cross over and play against the other players. It was just so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think the color schemes and just the aura of wearing your home versus the road was really, really neat.
It's artwork.
It's the only second time in the world you and I ever agreed on anything. Next topic.
Okay, let's go to Joey. Hey, if the Raiders start out slow, does Devontae go to the Jets? Do they get a first?
Well, he's 30 plus years of age. He's got limited time left on the clock, but who knows how desperate the Jets will be. But maybe the lure will allow the Raiders to move him to the Jets if Devontae wants to go play. Now, he's got a big contract, and the Jets take on that contract. There's so many other complexities. I don't know if I'd trade a number one pick for a guy that's going to be 33, I believe, but he's a fine player. We're going to start talking more and more NFL. We started today. We'll obviously dive into it a little bit more on the Monday bonus program, but there's so many storylines, so many different things to talk about, and just, prime example, Raiders. What is life like after Josh Jacobs, the do-everything running back who left? Who's a really trusted quarterback? Is it Gardner Minshew or is it Aiden O'Connell? Have they finally fixed their offensive line? We do know about Mad Max Crosby at defensive end, but do they have enough internally at defensive front to make it a complete defensive line? Do they have anybody in the secondary that can cover passes? So that's just a prime example of as camps open this week and into next week. Everybody's got question marks. Everybody's got answers to come, and that includes the Rams. That includes the Chargers. That obviously includes the Raiders. We'll be talking more and more about that with apologies in advance. I know everything about everything in the NFL, and we're going to talk about it on my podcast. Maybe not on his talk show, but on my podcast, yes.
Yeah. Well, let's go think about Devontae. He's older. Let's assume he went to the Jets. I mean, the window of opportunity for the Jets is only a couple of years. I mean, how old is Aaron Rodgers?
They were 38, maybe.
Yeah. So you've got a 1 or 2 year window. So I can see maybe Devontae going to the Jets if the Jets need more help. But the Raiders could probably flip him for, a number one and maybe another player.
Okay, that's what